Hey guys, and welcome to Get Live Podcast Kunai. And you're like, whoa, Bish, what's going on? You weren't on the last episode of Kunai. But now I am. I was ill last time, so forgive me. I'm joined as always by Tyson. Say hello.
Hello.
And the Kohai himself, Kevin.
Hey guys.
See, no matter how I introduce Kevin, it's always the same. It's always, hey guys, it's Kevin here from Get Live. He always says the same thing in every episode.
Well, it's just my thing, you know?
It's your thing, but it's not a good thing. Anyway, so today we're talking about plastic memories. I know we did say in a previous episode that we're going to be talking about Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, but due to some scheduling issues, we've pushed it back. So we're swapping around plastic memories with Yamada-kun. So Yamada-kun's still going to air, hopefully. It's just plastic memories is going up first. So, Tyson.
Well, as always, I got the disclaimer before every discussion goes through. For you new folks, Get Alive Podcast Kunai is a monthly anime discussion podcast under the Get Alive group. Due to the nature of the discussion, we can't avoid spoilers of the show to be discussed. I mean, that's the point of a discussion episode. For those shows that are based off an existing piece of work, whether it's manga, light novel, or some other media form, we aren't covering the source material for those. We can be found on Stitcher, iTunes Store, and Google Play. If you'd like to recommend a show for us to watch and make an episode Kunai, send us your suggestion on Twitter at GALPKunai or by email at galp.pea@gmail.com. We only ask that you suggest shows that have at most 30 episodes.
You didn't say the joke, Tyson. Everyone was waiting for you to say the joke. Oh.
Okay.
No, it's fine, Tyson. You don't need to say the joke now.
Too late now, too late.
It's too late. So,
Okay.
Plastic Memories is a sci-fi romance show, but I would honestly take the sci-fi out of it. For me, it's a romantic drama. That's how I'm going to describe it. And it's based on an original story by Naotaka Hayashi. I'm so shit with Japanese names. The show spans 13 episodes and it aired during 2015 spring. And it was produced by animation studio Doga Kobo. And they made such anime like Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, which is actually one of my favorites. And Himoto Umaru-chan, which I fucking hate. Fucking hate that anime. And it was directed by Yoshikuji Fujiwara. That was such a simple name to say. So yay! I'm just gonna go through also the synopsis of the anime. So after failing his college exams, 18-year-old Tsukasa, I can't even pronounce his second name, I'm not gonna try, was offered a position at a renowned company called the Psy Corporation due to his father's connections. So daddy got him a job basically.
Wow.
So the Psy Corporation is known for the production and management of these things called Giftas. Or is it Giftias? Or this is the thing I get confused with.
Giftia.
Okay, because when I think Giftia, I think Hestia. So just because it rhymes.
That works too.
So yeah, it works too. So basically his position in the terminal servants basically has him going to people and basically taking their Giftias away. Because they have a time limit. I believe, is it like 9 years?
9 years and
something
4 months.
Yeah.
9 years and 4 months.
And we see throughout the anime that, you know, some bad shit happens when they last longer than that. And we'll talk about that later on. And yeah, and he's teamed up with a gifter, or Giftia, called Isla, who's basically... The easiest way to describe her is that she is a trope in romance anime. The quiet one that doesn't talk and just repeats lines over and over again, but we'll get into that.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, exactly. That pissed me off. But we will
Come
get
on, it
into
was so
this.
adorable though, Bish. Can you
No,
really get
but
mad at Isla?
No, personally,
Come
I've
on.
seen this in many, many romance animes. There's always that one character that has to act like that. And in Toradora, there's that character. I forgot the name of it because it's just a tropey character. I just don't want to have that character again. Isla is unfortunately that character at the beginning. Towards the end, obviously, you see her open up a bit more. I'll start off with, first impressions myself. So how I got into this anime was, it was something to do with Hank from Viewster. Hank, if you're listening, hello. I did a recording with him on Kunai, and you guys can see this. I said to him, Hank, I'm not going to watch Plastic Memories until you bring Toradora to Viewster. And, he said, okay, cool. And then when Toradora was on Viewster, he sent me a DM saying, I done my part of the deal, it's now yours. So, this is the only reason I watched this anime, and he told me I would love it, and to be honest, I did. From the first episode, oh my god, there's so much emotion. I cried from the first episode. So, that was my first impressions, and I think if I didn't cry from the first episode, I wouldn't have just watched the anime in its entirety straight away. I would have given it time, but I had to marathon this anime because I was just interested from the first episode. What about you guys?
For me, well, I came into this anime completely blind without knowing anything about the plot. So, right off the bat, the first scene where he just runs in the elevator and he meets Isla, right? And their eyes meet. It's kind of cheesy, right? But, alright, I'll forgive it, right? So, after that, he goes into the office, meets people, right? And we're introduced to his job, right? In accompanying Giftia. And right off the bat, like the moment they introduce the concept of Giftias and, the limited life cycles and the fact that they're going to have to erase memories of Giftias that are, whose time is up, I was like, right off the bat, I'm like, you know what? This shit's gonna take some very fucking dark turns, alright? And then in that same episode, because I believe it's in the first episode that the grandma appears, right? With her grandchild, who's a Giftia.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for her. But
it took some dark turns. Yep. So, the thing is, like you said, Bish, this is a romantic drama, but I'd also say that there are some comedic elements in it, right? So it's kind of like
of course.
A rom-com and drama at the same time.
No, I would not say it's a rom-com, because just because something have jokes in it, I wouldn't attribute it as a comedy. There are funny moments, yes, but I wouldn't say this is a rom-com, because it's a lot more than that. Haganai, for example, that's a rom-com.
That's a rom-com, yeah.
This
definitely
isn't. I would say this is more drama as opposed to comedy.
It's a drama with some comedy thrown in.
Yeah, of course. If you didn't
side.
have the comedy, then it just would have been so depressing. Even, I like how the episode's structured as well. As soon as there's like a depressing moment, they have to counteract it with a joke. Sometimes it does take away... Sometimes it does take away from the dramatic moment, but I think if they just kept the dramatic moment and continued with it, the anime would get depressing real quickly. So I think it's justified there.
Fair enough. I must say, though, that like right from the start, it does feel a bit tropey and cliche at times. Like the moment that you hear about, Giftias and their how they only have 9 years to live, and you're introduced to Isla, right off the bat that the story is going to revolve around Isla at the end of her life. Like right off the bat, there's no question about it, right? So there are some cliche moments that are predictable, which it's not necessarily a problem, but it's a shame that they didn't take an alternative route, and like you said, Bish, I really agree with your point with the comedy and drama. It reminds me actually of, remember Heneko and the Stony Cat, our very first episode? That anime, it had some comedic elements, but also it can also be really sad at times and really touching. And I think
it's on the flip side. Like Haneko's ratio from drama to comedy, there was more comedy than drama. So I would consider Haneko a romantic comedy, of course, with elements of drama. As opposed to this. This is on the flip side.
Even so, though, I personally, I want you guys to share your opinions here. I find that because there's comedy and drama that are mixed into the same anime, I find that just like with Heneko, the problem is it's kind of hard to take the more dramatic moments seriously at times, in the beginning at least, because it switches from, this really dramatic, intense moment, and then somebody throws a joke in, right? So it's kind of hard to take moments seriously when there are jokes being thrown around constantly. What do you guys think about that?
I already mentioned it, but I'll say it again. I think it's necessary for that to happen, because if they didn't do that, at least from the first episode, we would just be depressed for the rest of the anime, and that's not a good thing, especially when you're watching anime. You don't want to feel depressed. I know personally I don't watch romantic dramas to be depressed. I want it to have like a happy ending, at least some sort of hope there. So I think the reason they put the comedy in there is this. Let's bear in mind, this anime doesn't have a happy ending. Whatever you want to think, it doesn't end well. So they need to make it from the start, give you some sort of hint of comedic value so that you're not depressed during this anime, so that you don't drop it. Because a lot of people will watch this and say, this is too depressing for me, I have to drop it. So that's why they have to put the comedy in there. But I do agree with you, sometimes the comedy does put off the dramatic moment. Sometimes.
The way that it was structured, I feel that it actually does the show a disservice. Mostly because I'm always focusing on the dramatic stuff, the dramatic side of its storytelling, and then when you try to follow it up almost immediately with a joke, it actually kills it. I found myself saying like, what? What is going on here? So there are times in which the emotional impact has been lessened, mostly because they immediately followed it up with a joke, whether it's Isla falling down, anybody making a perverted comment, Mishiru being a tsundere, among any other situations in which there were dramatic elements and then immediately follow it up with a joke. I think that hurts its pacing, its structure.
It does, in my opinion. And Bish, I agree that, yeah, there's some people out there that don't want to watch, super depressing anime that gets you down, all that. But at the same time, if you look at, for example, Clannad and 5 centimeters per second, those animes are really serious at times, right? And they're also very depressing, as you all know. And yet those anime are very successful, right?
But the thing is, let's be honest here, Clannad had the time. Like, it had, I think, 26 episodes or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they have the time to properly invest in that dramatic story, as opposed to this anime, you only have 12 episodes there. So they really can't... 13 episodes, sorry. So you really can't make the majority of episodes just real, hardcore depressing. Mm-hmm. Because you're just... First of all, you're going to lose people. Second of all, that's just going to be the whole anime. At least with Clannad, yes, there are good moments and bad moments, but because they have more episodes to work with, they can achieve that. So I think the structuring of the anime can be better, but I think it's also necessary as well.
Before we continue discussing story, let me just get my first impressions out of the way, because it seems like there's going to be a heated discussion in terms of story. Some points I agree with, some points I don't, but I digress. So, regards to first impressions, this anime completely fell off my radar. And I explain. During this time, I was watching The Disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan, and I think at that point, Food Wars, the first season was airing. There was also Seraph of the End, and I saw this show being posted on the Crunchyroll feed. I don't know if they consider this show to what Victoria calls the Miles Gap. And what that means is a list of shows that aren't popular enough in the Crunchyroll streaming service. So they have to pimp it up a bit, give it a little bit more promotion. I mean, I did a quick search on Twitter to see if they have done such a promotion before, but I didn't find anything. So, but I do recall that I saw it on Crunchyroll, but it completely fell under my radar. It's not the kind of show that I would normally watch. And even so, back at those days, I was watching stuff that, unlike now, in which I'm more actively seeking out simulcasting everything, back in those days, I wasn't really consulting with charts to see what type of shows I would be interested in watching. So this long monologue only to say that, yes, it was Bish who introduced me to this show. In regards to the first thing that I ran across is a love at first sight kind of tale, or that was the impression that it left on me, and it left me a very sour taste on my mouth, because at this point I'm thinking, okay, so Tsukasa is going to be after Isla to confess his feelings and whatnot because of our love at first sight. I don't get it. And also, there was this quite troubling issue for me that when you're talking about androids and humans coexisting in society, and there's these people who have androids to replace lost loved ones, or so on and so forth. I'm like, dude, she is a fucking android. I mean, that's when I started to think about the themes that this show was trying to explore in its storytelling, which was, it says so in the show name, the memories, the relationships between people, and right around the end, about how you should live your life happily. So that's not something that was immediately evident at first sight, but as I continued watching the show, those themes started to flourish, and then I was starting to analyze the whole thing in a different perspective.
I think with what you said at the beginning, with how you found it kind of odd that androids can kind of replace human beings in that sense because they're androids. The thing is, the anime is stated from the beginning that these aren't just normal androids. They actually obviously have synthetic skins and whatnot and organs, and also synthetic souls. That's another thing. So they're not just like androids in form of pets or whatnot. They actually have souls. They actually have their own sort of thoughts and things like that. So it's very different. So they're just like humans, but they're created. That's how I thought of them. When I first heard the fact that they got souls, it's just like, okay, they're manufactured humans. That's how I thought about them. I didn't treat them as androids.
I couldn't get the thought out of my mind that these were basically robots until about mid-season, in which I started to accept that, hey, there may be something going on here, but it also collides with the change of thoughts in regards to, hey, maybe I should treat this as a analog to what the story is trying to tell me, in which I pay less importance to the fact that we're dealing with androids here and more on what the story is trying to tell. It could be done with humans as well, but apparently the fact that they're using androids instead of other human beings was evident why they were used at the very last part, I feel.
Yeah, the main thing here is that the reason I believe why they used androids instead of humans is that the pivotal point of this anime here is the lifespan, the 9 years, right? And once it's up, they're gone, right? So if it was just a normal human relationship, that wouldn't really be a problem, right? Unless, say that person was affected with terminal illness, right? But it really focuses on the fact that these androids have very limited amount of time to be with ones that they love, right? So it's about making most out of that time with the ones they know. And that wouldn't really work with a human relationship.
Okay, but again, I started to analyze the show from this point of view, like, really later on. Because I could tell you from the start that this anime, for the first 6 episodes, it wasn't going to change my point of view. And should I have been watching this while it was airing, I would have probably dropped it by the 4th episode. Not because it was depressing, but rather that I couldn't get the thought that we're dealing with androids out of my mind.
Personally, the way I saw it is that I kind of thought the same way you did at the very beginning, but in the first 2 episodes, it's pretty clear that from the way they behave and the way they look even, right? Because Tsukasa says that, he can't tell the difference between an android, or a Giftia rather, and a human, right? It's because they look exactly the same. And the way they behave too, it's not mechanical, right? They're not robots. They are sentient and conscious, right? So they act exactly like humans. So the way I saw it is that they're basically humans. They're exact copies of humans, except they don't age and they have a limited lifespan.
But their interstitial information that was communicated by the show itself, at least in regards to when Isla was training back at the facility, it just drove the nail home. These are robots.
Yeah, but their dominant traits are human, though. They're just from a their parts and stuff. Those are synthetic, of course, right?
Like, I'm speaking strictly from a viewer's point of view, not like if I'm submerged into the same world, because I think that people know that Giftias are different from humans. Like, the owners, when they have to sign their release agreement form, they are aware, ever since they first bought the Giftia, that this day would come. And some take it more gracefully than others, and that's where the show explores its deep range of emotions and everything, in story writing and everything.
But the thing is, the owners of the Giftias themselves act as if they are humans. Like, even Nina and, her grandmother, quote unquote, treated her as a granddaughter. And even Edward, they treated him as a son. So people have emotional connections to them. And I wouldn't compare it to the way someone would have an emotional connection to a dog or a cat or a pet or whatnot, because, it's not like that. It's like a human connection. Do you see what I mean?
And that's what the show was trying to explore in its story writing.
I agree with that. And even with the guy, when they were I think it was in the first episode or second episode, when they were chasing that guy who ran off with the Giftia that was a woman. It was basically his girlfriend, and I found that hilarious because a lot of people, when people talk about the robots and stuff, when there is always a new technology, people have to relate sex to it. Like VR, first thing we got was VR porn. Robots, probably we're gonna get sex robots soon. That kind of thing. So this actually made me laugh a lot when I saw that. I was like, wow, that's hilarious.
That was episode 4, by the way.
That guy basically bought a sex robot. That's what he's using it for, and let's not deny it.
Wow.
All right?
Well, you can't really judge him, Bish. You can't judge him. You don't know what's been going on.
No, I can't judge him, but at the same time, it makes me think. I'm like, okay, that's effectively a sex robot, but is it the same as a human being? That's something weird.
Honestly, we could have an entire discussion about the ethics of selling ageless robots to people for 9 years and then forcibly taking them back,
And this is another thing I want to know is that when they offer them the upgrade, effectively that's like the Windows 10 upgrade. Like, you can't avoid that. But with that upgrade, do they still get to keep the body, but they change like their consciousness and whatnot? Does that also last for another 9 years, and then they have to upgrade again, or how does that work?
Yeah. It's the OS itself is the thing that deteriorates after 9 years, not the body, right? So it's just the OS needs to be replaced every 9 years. Like, remember that woman at the very end, towards the end of the anime, that was they dealt with, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I've done this multiple times, right? Like, I've replaced her OS like 3 times," and she's all casual about it, right? And it shocks Tsukasa.
Oh, the woman in the rich woman, isn't it?
I don't recall, but she's a woman, and the girl was playing with the teddy bear. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I remember that. See, that's what confuses me. It just shows a different range of people.
Exactly.
Some people get really emotionally attached, and some people are like, it's just a Windows 10 upgrade. Yeah. That's how people treat it. So
that was episode 8. That was episode 8, the one where they have to deal with the way they start to figure out. And this is by the point where Tsukasa is aware of how long Isla has to live, and he's exploring options to stay with her. So, yeah. I suppose at this time, Tsukasa was very confused about everything, really, because he chose to become the boyfriend of someone who would die in, like, a month.
Yeah.
And he didn't mind.
But at the same time, I think you can kind of compare this to a lot of literature and other sort of
I'm looking at you, the
movies
and stars.
Stuff.
I'm looking
exactly.
At you.
That's why I was going to suggest that. It has some sort of similar story, and I think when in the beginning, Kevin, you suggested that it might not work with humans. I think it can, but I think
yeah,
this anime
it wouldn't work
could
with
work
normal
with like
humans, not-
severely ill human beings.
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously, it won't work on the same sort of scale.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's what I wanted to throw out there. Hank Green, if you're listening. Oh no, was it Hank Green or John Green that wrote that? Fault in Our Stars.
John Green. Hank
John
is,
Green. If you're
Hank is
listening.
the one that does all the sciencey stuff.
See, you know, I can't even remember them anymore. They're just the same to me. They both got glasses. Anyway, if they're listening, which I doubt they are, hey, how's it going? Invite me to VidCon. Just saying. So, moving on from the, because I believe we talked about story a lot already. Can we just move on to or not first impressions, favorite episodes and moments? Because I really want to talk about that.
But I don't know if you guys made this connection, right? But do you ever, at any point while watching this anime, right, do you guys ever think that, this is actually quite similar to the real life job of being a notification officer in the military? And for those who do not know what that is, a notification officer is someone who's responsible in the military to inform next of kin of someone's death. Except it's kind of the opposite in this case, I guess, because they're not informing them of the person's death, they're taking them away, which is actually kind of dark. And I just saw many parallels to that, you know, especially when they mentioned that, oh yeah, the other departments, they never really go to the same extent as Department 1 in terms of, you know, providing emotional support for these people. And it does seem cold at first, you know, it's like, how could you be so fucking heartless, right? How can you just take these people's loved ones away so casually and, you know, so nonchalantly, right? But in real life, you have to do the same thing, right? You can't risk emotional attachment to these things because it's your job, you do it day in, day out, right? And it takes a toll on you. You can't afford to be emotionally invested in every single case that you work on. Because if you do, you're just gonna end up, like, jumping off a bridge or something because it takes a toll on you emotionally.
It does take a toll. It does take a toll. Speaking about that, can we just jump into favorite moments and episodes? Okay. For me, one of my favorite episodes was the first one. The first called. The first episode. This is actually the episode that got me invested in this anime. Especially the whole Grandma and Nina situation. That episode made me cry. Especially when Nina started crying and the way that the grandma was really like arrogant at first and she said, no, you're not taking Nina away and blah, blah, blah. And then she overheard the conversation Nina was having with Isla and then she kind of started to warm up. And I don't know, it was everything. It was just the music that was playing as well and the fact that they put on the ring and she whispered something in Nina's ear and it just made me swell up and just cry my eyes out. So that was one of my favorite episodes just because of that moment, and in a way it's like I can kind of relate it to my life. I'm not going to talk about that, but it hit home to me, I think. Another one of my favorite episodes was the final episode where basically Isla gets this deactivated and she goes on the Ferris wheel, and by the time the Ferris wheel ends, she I don't know, does she pass away or she deactivates basically?
Yeah. Question:
and,
were you guys expecting it to be on the Ferris wheel like that soon, or?
The thing is, when the anime started and when I realized that she was a Giftia, I knew that there was something up. I knew that she has such a short lifespan. Specifically, when she was basically made retired from the from her first sort of action, whatever. She was made effectively retired, so I knew that there was something wrong with her. Maybe she was defective or she didn't have enough time left. So I kind of expected it, but not in the whole Ferris wheel thing. And I think that was a very beautiful ending. Not an ending that I wanted to see, but nevertheless, it did make me cry. The first episode and the end and the last episode, so they were my favorite moments, just because of the emotion within those scenes. Specifically, that's the things that stuck out for me.
Alright, you know what? I'll start with episode 13 as well, which is the last one. I have to agree with you, Bish. It really fucking kicks you right in the feels, right? And I have to say, I'll be honest, right? Before episode 13, my impression of the series as a whole was like a 3 out of 5, right? But after that scene, I was like, there's no fucking way that that's a 3 out of 5. This is at least a 3.5, right? Because that scene alone makes the anime, in my opinion. And the fact that, Bish, you're talking about how good the music is, right? And how it complements the emotions. The scene on the Ferris wheel, there's no music at all, right? And that just drives it home because they're completely alone, right? In the Ferris wheel, and it just brings you to tears. Though I must admit, I didn't quite cry, and I don't want you guys to be like, "Oh, aren't you a tough guy?" The thing is, you said that the ending is sad, right, Bish? And I agree, it is heartbreaking. But at the same time, I think that there are two ways of looking at this ending. Either you look at it from Tsukasa's point of view, right, and you think that's really sad because his loved one is dying and stuff. But at the same time, I didn't cry because I saw it from Isla's point of view, right? She's only lived 9 years, right? But in those 9 years, she's met a bunch of people, right? Like Kizuka, Tsukasa, and for her, she's lived a plentiful life, and she's just thankful for that, right? And this shows because she doesn't cry, right? Normally, she's the one crying, right? Like a few episodes ago, she woke up in tears, right? And you never see Tsukasa crying. But in this last scene, it's kind of reversed, right? She's happy, and she's just thankful for everything, and he's the one in tears. So it is sad, but at the same time, it's also beautiful.
You never know what you have until you lose it.
Exactly.
That's one. Because that's one saying that's really popular here, and it basically conveys that you should be grateful for everything that you do have, because when you don't have it, you will miss it, and you will miss it dearly.
Honestly, sorry. I compare this scene to that scene in Blast of Tempest, right, where Yoshino just breaks down, right? I felt the same way inside. You just feel really bad, and just everything about that one scene in the Ferris wheel is done, masterfully, right? The music, or rather the lack thereof, the voice acting. Props to the voice actors, by the way, for the great job. We'll get into that later, but for this scene, it really struck home.
There is one part in your statement that troubles me, Kevin, because you say that the moment in the Ferris wheel where Tsukasa deactivates Ida makes the whole show, but you fail to recognize the work that was put in building to this very moment. What do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, so sorry. Perhaps I didn't choose the right words. I'm not saying that, this is the only reason you should watch the show, it's the only good thing about the show. By no means, of course. Like you said, if there was no development for the relationship between Isla and Tsukasa, this would have had absolutely no impact. And it's just because the development was done over all those episodes that this scene was so sad, right? But what I meant to say is that this has got to be the most powerful scene in the anime, right? You may have cried multiple times in the anime, or, you might have felt sad, but this is the scene, right? This is the one that really shatters your heart into a million pieces, It's the most emotional one, from my point of view, anyway.
But I feel that by this point, if you haven't already gotten on the feels train, you are a monster.
Wow. I like that.
Well, I didn't really cry before. I felt bad in the other scenes, right? But this is the first scene where it's because in the other scenes with emotions, it's mainly between these owners and their Giftias, right? And you don't really have much time with them, right? I think the closest I came to crying before this was in episode 4, rather episode 5, with, I believe Marcia, was that her name? And she became a wanderer, right? So I felt really bad on that episode, but the thing is, at the end of the day, those characters are kind of distant to me, right? You don't get time to know them too much.
See, that's the thing. I think this is something that I agree with you there. There isn't enough character development within side characters, and I really want to get involved more. And usually romantic dramas tend to have up to 26 episodes, or at least a second season. I don't think we're going to see a second season, but I
really doubt it.
I think we should have at least gotten 26 episodes so we could see more of those side characters and experience their story, so that we don't just have to focus on Isla and other guy. Sorry, I kind of forgot his name, but he's kind of irrelevant in one point. But
yes,
yeah.
Because from what I'm seeing here is that they produce one anime a season. So I think that the argument that they should have made Plastic Memories 26 episodes wouldn't have been feasible. Rather,
but at the same time, I think it should have been given to a studio who could have done
it. Would
that.
have benefited more if it had 26 episodes because
the thing is that this story is original. So and the writer works for Dogakobo. So there's no other studio that this idea could be pitched to.
But the thing is, at the same
rather
time,
than Dogakobo.
let's take all of the reality out of it and just talk about the anime itself. I think the anime would have benefited from having at least 26 episodes.
I mean,
mostly because you're looking at this from the point of character development, but when you start to analyze it in regards to the themes that the show wanted to touch on, 13 episodes was enough. But anyway, getting ahead of myself here, I want to address this in story. Favorite moments in episodes. Unlike, yes, the last episode was full of feels. I broke down in tears during that part, mostly because I care about this relationship, I care about the characters, and this was a very powerful scene, there's no doubt about that. But I will put forth that my favorite episode was episode 11. This is the episode in which Isla wanted to learn how to cook for Tsukasa, and it's basically full of all of these cute frames, these cute moments of the relationship that made me go, this is genuinely heartwarming, and as such is my favorite episode of the whole series. As for favorite moments, because we've been keeping all the discussion to favorite episodes, but not really into favorite moments, if I am allowed to fawn over the character design for one moment, I would like to put forth one favorite moment on the episode that was in episode 3. Yes, I get to see Tsukasa shirtless. Yes,
dude, the moment I saw that, I was like, you know what? Tyson's gonna dig this shit. He's gonna dig it hard. All right.
Wow.
And I did.
It deserved like a Haru sexual healing moment there. Tyson, you need to get on that.
He's still not as ripped as Nagisa though, which is like pretty fucking alarming considering Nagisa's like what, 16?
Not only I didn't expect him to be that buff, and it was supposed to be hilarious, and yes, I laughed, but hey, I'm the type of person that I need more women fan service in anime, and this was it. This was totally it.
I'm just glad that they didn't overkill it.
No, they didn't.
Oh, they could have.
Although they could have, but
they would have ruined the fucking anime if they just overkilled the fan service. To be honest,
I think that would have been hilarious.
Imagine Ferris wheel. He takes off his shirt,
and then he starts to lift. Then he starts to do pull-ups, and like, Isla, you can't depend on me. And then the dumbbell just slips off his hand and then slides on the wall. He missed on the wall. I mean, it was supposed to be a hilarious moment, but this is the one part I'm like, all aboard the Tsukasa ship. But I think it's mostly because in episode 1 and episode 2, I'm treated to fan service regarding women's butts. I think it was either Mishiru or it was between Mishiru. What's the name of the other character? I have it here in my notes. It was either between Mishiru, Kazuki, or Eru. So there was the fan service like in which they were practically bending over and the camera just has the attention on the butt. And I'm like, oh my god, really?
So Tyson, quick question. What do you think on this type of fan service compared to other anime? Let's say, Haganai with the chest fan service type thing. What would you prefer? What's the lesser of two evils here?
The lesser of two evils,
for you personally.
That's a good question, and I'll get back to you on that because I don't really have an answer now. I really don't.
I'm asking you whether you like tits more or ass.
Tits versus ass. Choose.
Wow.
Age-old question.
Wow. Well,
I gotta say, the fan service wasn't like, for me, for some reason, it wasn't as noticeable as
it wasn't.
Like tits. For some reason, like tits in terms of fan service,
but
there's a lot more noticeable stuff there compared to just an ass.
But the thing about the tits fan service in the show it's meant to be hilarious, and I took it as such. Mostly the tit fan service coming from Eru, and the way that she basically gropes the boobs of this character during the episode.
The thing is, with that's such a trope as well. Like we see that in a lot of Japanese games and in anime as well. Like for instance, Senran Kagura, you got what's her name? Shit, I forgot her name. The blonde one in Senran Kagura is always groping people. And there's a bunch... And even in, like, Love Live, Nozomi is the one that gropes people's breasts all the time. And we've seen this, like, time and time again in anime. There's always that one character that has to feel another character's breasts up. Yeah. It's just there.
I don't know,
it's always there. That's why I didn't like.
Well,
it's just a cheap trope
personally,
to me.
I find that in this anime, at least, I don't really mind the fan service because it wasn't detrimental to the story. It wasn't shoved in your face every single episode, right? And I did notice it, right? There are moments where I'm like, all right, yeah, they clearly shot the scene in this particular way to show off, this. But it was never in your face, and it never gets in the way of the plot or development, right? Never once in the anime did I feel like, you know what? This is just all fan service, And regarding that trope, though, in Eru, I don't know about you guys, but it makes me very fucking uncomfortable, right? Like, just the glorification of, what amounts to basically sexual harassment is just, I don't get it, right? I understand it can be a joke, but, like, it's not really mature, right? And it's been beat to death, all right? We've seen it in, like, every rom-com there is to talk about. Like, it's just, why?
But the thing is, also, it's something silly that takes away from the depressingness and drama of the anime.
It feels so out of place in this drama.
It feels so out of place, but I think it needs to be there. Obviously not in this particular form, and I don't necessarily agree with this kind of form of fan service in a way, but it needed to be there in some form or another, or else this, like I said, would just get really depressing.
All right then. I don't really have any time to discuss any further favorite moments, so let's go into any further story discussions that may have been remaining. So I've been talking a lot about the themes of the show that it was trying to portray and how 13 episodes I felt was enough for what the story was trying to tell. And this came at a point in which I stopped looking at it as a human and android thing and more of a story about loss, about making memories, about life itself. When you and I think it was Kevin the one that said that with the very short time limit, this story would work more if there were with androids instead of human beings. And in hindsight, I agree. But in regards to the topics that it was trying to touch upon, I felt that it was successful. Although I do have slight issues with the pacing because I felt like the whole journey through was like it was like brewing. Like you put something on a pot, you turn up the heat, and then you let it simmer until it's done. And this a metaphor to say that I felt that the first part, like the first 6 episodes, were rather weak, and then on the finale is when it got good. So in a way, the story is a test of patience. What do you guys think about that?
To some extent, yes, but I would say completely different. I didn't kind of feel like you in the sense where you were gonna potentially drop it if you had watched it simulcasted. I was just very invested. Mainly because of the fact that it is, I didn't really treat it as an anime where we discuss loss and loss of loved ones, etc. I treated it more as a romantic drama, and I wanted to see how that romance went. And that's also why I suggested a 26 episode run for this anime, mainly because I feel that even their relationship, we see them skip months in advance, years in advance, and it's just, I really wanted to know in between. I wanted more sort of filler episodes where you see them dating, etc. Because at the end of the day, this is a romance anime, and I expect to see a lot more from a romance. I want to see the romance blossom, etc. But at the same time, I like how it's also quite short and abrupt, because it fits for the anime, you know, because Isla doesn't have much time. You know, her life is also short and abrupt.
And now, to be fair, if I had watched this simulcasted, my feelings on the matter would be completely different because I wasn't quite sold on the romantic drama while binging the whole show like in 2 days. But if I was watching this week by week, I would probably be more invested in the romantic drama side of things. But given the circumstances in which I watched this show, I was more concerned with the themes that the show was trying to portray and less on the romantic drama side of things. Kevin, what do you have to add?
Well, I actually have a third point of view to add here, but I'll address the pacing thing first. Like you guys said, at the end of the day, I think that it really would have benefited from a 26-episode run to get us to feel more for the side characters, because this show revolves around, at the end of the day, it revolves around two people, and that's Isla and Tsukasa, right? So you don't really give a shit about too many of the side characters, to be honest. But instead of like a romantic comedy like you saw it, Bish, or Tyson, you saw it as some sort of anime that comments on life, love, and all that, I saw it more of like a philosophical anime. You know, what does it mean to be human? You know, what makes you human? Is it, you know, your biology? Is it your emotions and stuff? And I think it's really that it's a journey that Isla makes with Tsukasa and just discovering what it is to be human and what it is to be loved, right? And I do agree that, in the end, 12 episodes did have enough time to wrap up the relationship between these two, but it's a double-edged sword, to be honest. The short length is really a double-edged sword because, yes, it really hammers the brevity of these androids' lives, but at the same time, you're doing it at the cost of development of other characters, right? And yes, the main characters are important, they are what really carries the story, but without a solid supporting cast, it feels kind of lacking at times. What do you guys think?
When you point it out as a philosophical comment on life and what it's meant to be human, in hindsight, I have to agree with that. I got some hints that the commentary of this anime was trying to say that as well, but I ended up going the other way and saying that it was more a comment on human relationships, and what it means to have someone by your side and someone and something like that. I find myself. I think if for me it's difficult to agree with extending the length of the anime because, in my point of view, 13 episodes did the job. It told the story that it wanted to tell, and I'm content with that. And this is also a preface to say that I wouldn't want a second season, mostly because it would ruin the narrative that season 1 tried to establish, and that it was successful at it. All right, so what say we move into characters, unless there's something more about the story that you guys wanted to bring up?
Honestly, I think characters and story go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do. Honest. They do go hand in hand. But at the same time, it's like this anime doesn't want you feeling for like other characters except for Isla and whatever his name is. See, he's so irrelevant.
Yeah,
he's like the Hawkeye of the Avengers. That's basically what he is. I'm gonna call him Hawkeye for the rest of the episode because he's irrelevant.
Not even like you could replace him with, I don't know. He could change his name to generic protagonist number 54321, and like it wouldn't change anything because he really is typical in my opinion. Because he's the run-of-the-mill nice guy, protag, who's always nice all the time, and there's no. Unlike other characters, is there anything interesting about his background? Nope. No. He's just a daddy's boy who got a job at a company.
But that's the thing.
All you need to
know.
know.
A lot of characters in romance animes, for some reason, their dad gets them a job and they're losers. We see this a lot. Why can't he be a fucking winner?
Like, the thing is, with Isla, okay, you understand what she's been through, right? You get a glimpse at her past relationships with Kazuki and stuff, right? With Tsukasa, it's like, you don't know anything about him. He's just there. And his development starts from the moment he walks in the office, and it just goes on from there. You don't get any backstory on him, which makes him really boring.
I would be surprised because looking at this anime, you can tell that Isla is more human than he is. he should have been the Giftia in this situation.
Honestly, he really should. I completely agree with that. She has more emotions than he does, because he's really one-dimensional as a protagonist, to be honest. Because Isla, I think she shows a wide range of emotions, and Tsukasa, he does cry at the end. All right, I admit. But
I don't know, because Isla manages between stoic, happy, embarrassed. That's it between those three modes.
But Tsukasa, to me, he's always like the typical nice guy, right? You know what exactly how he's going to react to certain situations, right? It's like I've seen the same character in so many different anime shows and movies. Exactly.
But didn't Bish establish from the first second before the discussion that this was a tropey show?
Yes. No, I didn't say it was rom-com. I said it was a romantic drama.
That was me.
It is quite
okay, my bad.
Tropey in terms of how romances work in terms of anime. But yeah, the fact that even the main character was overly tropey, I just didn't enjoy that. And the rest of the characters, I don't really have opinions on them, because you don't see them a lot, except for Zack and the Tsundere girl. Yeah. That's it. They're like the only characters I care for, because you see them in the first episode and you see them in other episodes as well. So he's just there and then they forget about them. And then they try and do a romance arc with the Tsundere girl and the protagonist, which clearly didn't work. And I don't know why the hell they do it. It's kind of like in Oremo when they try and do those side arcs, those side romance arcs, when you know he's going to marry his sister in the end. Sorry for the spoilers on Oremo, but there you go. So it's a similar sort of thing here. You know he's destined to be with Isla. He's going to go out with Isla. So why do they hint on that sort of romance between Tsukasa and I forgot the name of the Tsundere girl, but why did they hint on that? Yeah, why did they hint on Michiru and Tsukasa when clearly that's not what they were trying to go for?
It might have been just to facilitate ships and not to completely crush people's dreams.
The ironic thing is, I don't even have ships in this anime.
Just because.
That's the thing.
I don't either.
I have two, but they're not really major. Because the thing is, for ships to happen, you need solid secondary characters. That's not really the case in this anime. It's like, okay, you really can ship Tsukasa with Isla. And honestly, I wouldn't even say that Tsukasa and Isla is a very solid ship, because the most interesting character in this ship here is Isla. Tsukasa, like, we've already established that he's very boring and very typical, alright? Like, so really, it's really Isla that is there. Exactly. Keeping this relationship up.
And that's why I have to say, Tsukasa is my least favorite character, and Isla has to be one of my favorite characters, other than Zack. I really do like Zack as well, so... You know, he's like the Nagisa of the anime.
Wow,
he looks like Nagisa.
There's a sort of pattern here in which Bish is attracted to the asshole characters of each and every show that we cover here on Kunai.
He's not that much of an asshole, though. Do you really think so?
Yes, because he's always spoiling what's on Michiru's mind, and he's very loose-tongued. I mean, dude, shut up.
Whoa, Tyson, I guess we found out who your favorite character is.
Hands up, don't shoot, hands up. But
actually, I don't have a favorite character. I don't have a least favorite character, although Zack may be close to that denomination in regards to least favorite character.
Damn.
I do have one question on Michiru. It's how, when on the show was hinted that she had a thing for Tsukasa, what, she likes to bully him or something, or is it just being her Sun side?
That's how Tsundere characters work. They're only mean to the people that they like
explicitly.
And
but in this occasion, I get no sort of subtext or context into why she.
To be honest, that's
Tsukasa. I'm like,
why does Tsukasa like Isla?
Exactly. I think it's poor character development on that
fell for
point.
First sight.
But it's blatantly obvious that because they introduced a Tsundere character, there was no need to introduce a Tsundere character unless you were going to make that some sort of love interest or some sort of love story arc between the two characters.
Or at least give her a reason to exist. This show didn't do anything of that.
That's the case for 99% of the side characters. Literally.
Hang on, and I want to address this because you said that why did Tsukasa fell for Isla? It was a love at first sight. It was established in the first
but
episode.
even then, that's
With
not even
Michiru,
an acceptable
why?
answer. Like love at first sight, that's very tropey. So is
That's bullshit.
the whole fact of introducing a tsundere character who, you know, she clearly likes him because she says something and then she says, "Oh no, I didn't mean to say that." She gives him a compliment, then takes back the compliment with an insult. That is clearly tsundere love.
Yeah.
And she's got that. Just saying.
It's a plot device, you know, like.
I have here on my notes that Michiru is a hopeless romantic.
It's so obvious from my point of view that she's into what's his face, to Hawkeye, because, you know, she's always, you know, teasing him and, you know, being mean to him, and she always blushes at him, right? So she's such a typical tsundere character. It's hard not to see that she's into him, right? But on the note of characters though, because I haven't said who my favorite character is. Obviously, it would be Isla, but, you know, you guys already said that. But I'd like to give an honorable mention to one of the side characters, right? Because I said almost all of the side characters are kind of, like, replaceable and really cliche. The one side character, I think, that really, you know, stuck out to me the most is Kazuki, right? Because she plays a role, you know, of a big sister and mentor, right? And she's mean, right? And her being mean is obviously, well, being mean and scary. That's obviously a trope, right? Because it happens time and time again. But at the same time, I feel that she does get some development, because it is clear that, yeah, she is mean, but she truly does care about those around her, right? She does care about Isla, and she does care about Tsukasa and how the relationship's going.
But once again, that is kind of like a trope. We've seen this in Heneko as well. What's it called? The president of the running club. She's in a similar sort of situation. She is the older sister. She's mean to the protagonist, but at the same time, she has a reason for being mean because she just wants to take care of, you know, the kind of little sister in this situation, which is Isla. So it's the same sort of thing. This is a trope that we see again and again in sort of romance anime. Like, it's just there.
Yeah, I mean, I personally found her to be less tropey. Well, perhaps not less tropey, but at least she had some more development than some other characters. Like, for example,
oh yeah, of course,
Constance.
But the thing is, she needed to be developed so that she could further develop Isla's story.
Yeah, they're really secondary.
Because, you know, they used to be partners.
They revolve around the main characters here. Honestly, I'd say that a lot of the secondary characters, you could replace them with generic people and it wouldn't make a difference. Like Constance. What the hell was his role?
He was just there.
In this anime?
All of them kind of remind me of like designs of Vocaloids when you look at them. Like even their clothing, and Constance kind of reminded me of...
Sherry. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry. Sherry probably has the best character design in terms of aesthetic, in my opinion, right? That's because she reminds me of Rin, by the way, just because of the yellow clothing.
Wow.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
Because of that.
I had to bring it up. From a purely
and you know,
Constance
point of view, reminds me of
design, right? I'm not saying
Kaito.
that she's a good character.
Kaito, it's kind of... You can tell that they probably looked at some Krypton Future Media Vocaloids and they were like, let's rip this off. Probably, because everyone has different hairstyles.
It's like they went through a checklist for the characters, right? It's like, all right, do we have like a Jiraiya or Love Guru in the office? Yup, that's Yasutaka. Do we have a tsundere? Oh, yep, that's Michiru. Do we have a perv? Oh, yeah, that's Eru. You know, it's like they just went through a checklist of all of a bunch of tropes, right? And they just check, and they don't really have a meaningful reason to be in the anime, you know?
By the way, I want to know specifically, Kevin, your thoughts on Zack. Because you said some very interesting things on Twitter that I really want to call you out on.
Okay, at first, bear with me here, alright? This is the very first episode, right? And they didn't introduce him yet. You just saw him on screen, alright? Keep that in mind, alright?
Before you say anything, did you not notice that all the female characters in this anime are wearing skirts? And Zack is...
Yeah, no,
and
he was
he's
sitting
the only
down
one wearing trousers.
at the desk, okay? He was... I noticed that afterwards. But... They were all sitting down at the office, so I couldn't see, right? In my defense, this has happened to me before in Attack on Titan, right? With Armin. Like I said, Armin looks almost exactly, well, to a person who first starts watching, he almost looks exactly like Historia, right? And you have to say, you have to give me a free pass here, that Zack, he does, his voice actor, I think it's probably a woman, because
no, it's not.
It's very
it's high-pitched.
It's a man? Okay, well, the thing is that the way the voice actor voiced him, it's just that he could either be a guy with a very high-pitched voice or a girl with a slightly deep voice, right?
I'm joking. It was a woman that voiced him.
It was a woman. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
It just shows how naive you are, Kevin. You just believe the first thing I said. I could have said it was a donkey, and you'd be like, yeah.
Hey.
Wow.
I trusted you because I thought you were checking on like the Wikipedia page or something, right? But yeah.
No, I'm the one who does that. Bitch doesn't do shit.
Hey, Tyson. Calm your tits.
Break
right?
it up. Break it up. But I don't know, Zach. My honest opinion on Zach Bish, he's sort of funny. He's one of the many sources of comic relief, but he's not really notable. He's just there. He's a complement to, or the antithesis, if you will, to Michiru, right? He doesn't really have a reason to be in the anime. He's just there because you need to have coworkers in the office, or else it wouldn't work.
Fun fact: the voice actress Sayuri, she voices someone in SYD. You know the Suzu-chan, the very small character.
No,
She voices her.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she's also in Bakuman. She's Kaya in Bakuman.
Oh yeah, I knew why her voice was so familiar to me, and I couldn't land it on the Oh my gosh! Oh,
You could quite put your finger on it.
I couldn't. I couldn't put my
now
finger.
You have your finger on it, so it's fine.
No, but apparently this voice actress also does a character in Haganai, Yukiko. That's probably a season 2 character. I don't.
What? Wait, who's Yukiko in Haganai?
What the fuck is Yukiko? Yeah.
That's what I need to realize. Who the fuck is Yukiko?
Is it
the short hair redhead?
No,
Wait.
no.
Very
When
short
I
one,
open up the link, this character Yukiko Nagata is a character with gray hair, short gray hair, and she's a minor character. That's what it says here.
Let me see what she looks like. So I can. Oh, I know who she is. Tyson, that's a character in a game.
Oh, it's on the game because
It's in the game. No, I mean it's in the game that Senna plays in.
Oh,
She's a librarian in the game, Tyson.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, I was like, damn, did I forget some major character?
Did maybe Tyson saw some season 3 of Haganai and this character was in there? I was like, whoa, how does Tyson get this information? And it was a character in a game.
The thing is that AIC no longer does anime, so yeah.
What?
What?
AIC.
Are you telling me there's not gonna be a season 3?
No, Haganai season 3.
No, fuck you. No, what?
There still might be a Haganai season 3. There's still hope, guys.
There's still hope.
There's still
as
hope.
long as we believe there's still
They were
hope.
planning a season 3.
But then AIC stopped doing anime. So
No.
Yeah.
No, you've crushed our dreams, Tyson. I was fucking
damn
waiting
it.
for season 3 since season 2
To be fair,
ended.
that is his
have
job,
done-
Bish.
I have done something good before, something that I will announce later.
You know what, Tyson? You can go and fuck off for telling me that information.
I
That
refuse
was-
to believe that.
That-
No.
You know what now?
Anyway,
I'm not
Anyway.
even going to continue on this episode because I'm just depressed. I'm really depressed. I've been waiting for Haganai season 3 for a long time. Now I'm
It's
going
like
to have to
Half-Life
read
3.
more light novels, and that's boring. And I know the light novels
Anyway.
already ended. Fuck.
Anyway, let's continue on to Kevin's dissertation of Zack. Kevin?
Oh no,
Kevin's
I was done.
depressed
He's
now. He's
kind-
like, let's
he's-
just move on. You know, I'm moving on to the next point. Who is your favorite character?
Okay.
Who's the best girl? Really, I don't have best girl in this anime because the characters are not like really well developed, and I'm not gonna
pretty
just
shit.
say Isla.
So yeah, it's the only choice there is, to be honest.
Effectively, even though there is a lot of female characters in this anime, and a lot of traps, which Kevin seems to like. So
No,
Hey.
I'm the trap lover, not Kevin.
both of you are trap
Yeah,
lovers.
yeah.
Kevin
No.
likes traps as well.
No, I
Kevin,
accidentally-
you're a
I
real
do it.
Shotacon,
I do it
you know?
unwittingly.
You're the
That's
kind
the
of
thing. That's the
person that would
difference.
watch Boku no Pico and enjoy it. You're that kind of person. Kevin.
Oh!
All right.
What?
Yeah.
Mate. Okay, one more. MW2 Rust 1v1. Come on,
Yeah,
right now.
Okay,
right now.
Do you have it on Xbox? Oh no, shit! I just sold the game today. Fuck.
To get Overwatch?
Yeah, to get Overwatch, I had to sell all of my games. Just to
Alright,
get
Tyson,
Overwatch.
give me $40 on your budget. I'm gonna go buy Overwatch.
Fuck yeah, 1v1 me in Overwatch. Fuck you, man. Anyway, who is your... Well, I'm guessing no one has best girls, which is a
I
rarity.
think none of the side characters are really worthwhile or well developed, right? There is no choice here, unfortunately.
The thing with me is that my approach to this show doesn't allow me to do the kind of fandom thing of choosing best girls or choosing best ships or something of the sort. So I won't give it the fandom treatment to this show.
So that means we're just going to move on to audio, because we have no ships and no best girls, which is the first time on Kunai where we didn't talk about either one, which is crazy.
We did have best characters, but
We have best
no one's
characters,
really
but not
worthy
best girl. Exactly,
Yeah.
no one's
Yeah.
really worthy. You're not worthy. Anyway, so in terms of the audio visual, the audio, it's all right. It's all right audio, but it's mainly the music. The intro and the outro I really didn't really care for, but it's mainly the music and the emotional moments. That's when it kicks in and it's like, shit, I'm gonna cry now, isn't it? And yes, they prepare you for that with the music beforehand, and that's all I have to say in regards to the music. It wasn't on the level of Tempest, because Tempest and Attack on Titan's music is just next level shit in terms of emotional stuff, but it was in between the two. I wouldn't say it had like a shitty soundtrack.
it's not a generic
Exactly,
rom-com
yeah.
soundtrack.
It's not.
But it's not.
But
You
let's
know,
be honest,
I would
it's not a
download
rom-com,
this
so I
music.
wouldn't expect
Yeah, I know.
something like
It had-
Nice one.
It had some orchestral numbers on there. I thought
Yeah.
Kevin would be able to
Yeah.
catch in on those.
I did, although I caught it in quite late. Quite late. Like in my notes, in episode 7, there is some nice orchestral music, especially with the piano. It's very piano heavy. But at the same time, there's also some music for the comedic moments, which I find kind of typical. So, in terms of the music for the moments that are supposed to be funny, it's pretty run-of-the-mill, pretty generic. In terms of the music that's done in the emotional moments, that could be. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad, right? But it's not amazing, But it does enough to, to drive the point home.
I will go and probably break my record here in saying that in regards to this soundtrack, I wouldn't mind owning it. I really wouldn't. I like the instrumental compositions that much that I would be willing to buy the soundtrack if one has been released. I haven't done the research to see if they have released it, but if there is, I wouldn't mind owning it.
Mm-hmm. To be honest,
I'll be completely frank here.
To be honest, for me, it's not something that I would own. Like, I personally own the soundtracks for, like, Golden Time and Toradora, and those soundtracks were fucking amazing for romantic dramas. This really, it's something I would listen to, but not something I would actually go out and research and actually purchase on iTunes, because it's not like, that awesome,
I won't listen to this, on the bus or
Yeah, of course
doing
not.
work
No.
and stuff. It's not.
I would probably listen to it the way on the drive to work. Probably it would probably tear up a little bit because there's nothing like the taste of feels in the morning.
I mean, I hear that tears make your breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
more
They're great!
But the thing is, I guess it all depends on your taste in music, right?
Yeah.
For me, I like music when it's either A, catchy, or B, when it's so emotional that you can relive the scene in your head as you're listening to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, this anime, it's not bad music, but
Exactly.
doesn't
That's
meet
something,
either of those criteria.
Especially because this anime is supposed to be like a romantic drama and whatnot. Like, for example, I own the Toradora soundtrack. I'm going to keep on saying this, but there's times where I don't want to listen to the Toradora soundtrack because the music just gets me really...
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, this scene happened, and that music was playing. I was like, fuck, I can't listen to this. Do you know what I mean? This anime doesn't have that sort of thing with their soundtrack, and it's a shame, really. I think they could have done a lot better on the music, but as a whole,
It's not bad.
It was all right.
It gets the job done.
Exactly. It gets the job done. But I think it would have been a lot better, and I do agree with you when you said at the beginning where the final scene didn't have any music. I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
For them to do, obviously, because
Definitely.
you notice it and you focus more on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fair enough. What about the opening and ending?
I've already mentioned it. Opening and ending to me really. I will be honest with you because I watched this on Viewstep, and sorry for the humble brag here, but I was watching on Viewstep, and for some reason they skip the endings if you're marathoning it, kind of like Netflix. So it skips the
Really?
opening and the endings. Yeah, you
Really?
can turn it
Wow.
off. Yeah,
It worked for me.
maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just that they know that I like to skip the openings and the endings, but. I don't know, but for me, it skipped the openings and the endings, except the first one.
Oh,
And the
wow.
first episode
If
didn't
you-
even have an opening.
If you didn't skip the opening, there is a little detail that I found to be quite nice when I saw it before the episode starts, because it mostly reflects on Isla's current mood, whether she's stoic, happy, embarrassed, is shown on that last frame. So in a way, I think Dogakobo had to make like 4 or 5 different versions of the opening itself just to showcase that that little change on Isla's current mood, whether she smiles or just stays serious at the very end when all the creditors are listed, something like that.
For me, I started off watching this anime. The opening initially for me was is kind of typical, to be honest. Nothing too special, but I admit over the course of the series, it has grown on me a bit. Still not like legendary or super amazing, but it's pretty nice, right? Ending, I honestly skipped it every time. The thing is, for endings, unlike openings, which I actually occasionally watch, for endings, if it doesn't like hook me right away, I just kind of skip next episode. That's what I do. How about the visual design? What do you guys think about that?
To be honest, like for me, I didn't really focus on the visuals. For me, it was just like, oh, okay, it's good enough for the anime. It wasn't something spectacular, because to be honest, this kind of anime doesn't need awesome visuals like Attack on Titan, because there is really no action going on. There is the occasional running scene, which, I don't know what to say about that, but this anime doesn't really need hyper realistic or hyper amazing looking visuals. That's just all I have to say. Although the eyes are good. That's another thing. The eyes are really nicely, shaded and whatnot.
I don't have many specific comments on animation or art style, but I will go ahead and say that there were some interesting experiments with framing in both. Let's see what my notes say. There were some very interesting framing experiments in episode 6 and on the very first episode when they're at the grandma's house. The framing was done in such a way that it communicated stuff via the frame itself, and that's good cinematography. I really appreciate little details like that. I thought that, and it's a shame because I thought that some of the background art in Plastic Memories was really good, but it wasn't used as often as I would prefer, especially if it was done by the same artist, because usually the artists who draw backgrounds are separate from key animators or in between animators. If the same person that did the background art for different scenes in this show was the one who did it for the entirety of the episodes, which were in reality very little, it's a shame that I didn't saw more of that. It's probably, and I would even go as far as say that it's a waste of talent. I believe it was that beautiful. Probably time consuming, yes, but it was beautiful. In regards to animation, I don't have the only comment that I have that it was really interesting was the cleaning scene in episode 13, the last episode. When Tsukasa and Ida are cleaning their little apartment, there were some exercises in animation that I found were really interesting. They were really detailed. They were probably the word that I'm looking for here is that they were really accurate, down to the inertia of how stuff moves. And when you think about anime that is something that you have to push out each and every week, and you're on a tight budget schedule, that scene was impressive. Whoever worked on that scene is really good, and it was probably because he was given the time to do this scene. So, yeah, props to Doga Kobo for that scene. Other than that, I don't have many particular comments on animation or the art style. Or, hang on, there is one comment that I want to do on the art style, and that I'm a fan of the character design. Let's see who did the character design. Apparently it's a woman. It's called Shiaki Nakajima. I'm looking at her Anime News Network page, and she did work for pretty much all of Doga Kobo's projects. Character design, Love Laugh, Yuri Yuri. I'm seeing here that she did, let's see, she did key animation for High School Today, Himoto Maru-chan. She did work on the Evangelion movie. Oh, she also did key animation on Eating of the East, which is another series which I thought it had good animation and good character design, even if it was a bit jarring. She also did work on Penny and Stocking, episode 10 key animation.
Whoa.
But that's about all that I'm looking here in her Anime News Network page.
Kevin, any points for the art style and animation, or?
Not a lot of points, but I have a few. So one thing I did notice is that the way the coloring was done, I found that the color palette that they chose was rather bright. And I noted this because it kind of contrasts with the darker tones and darker scenes that are in the anime, right? It's kind of... It doesn't really kill the mood, but it's just noticeable when, people are crying or, it's really depressing and all the colors are super bright, So that's one thing I noted. In terms of the animation, there's not much to say, to be honest, because there isn't too much movement. The landscape... Sorry?
You were mentioned that when the characters were crying, it shifted to a more bright aesthetic. And I think that's more an exercise on the camera replicating a human eye, because when you cry, you'll see that the colors look brighter all around you. You could make the argument that it was a bit too bright, but I'm gonna present that as an alternative, that it was probably an exercise on the camera, the framing, and trying to emulate what the human eye sees.
No, I didn't mean that. No, it got brighter during the crying scenes. It's just the coloring that used for the character designs and the environments. They're rather bright, in my opinion, for a dark anime. But that's a design choice that they made. It didn't really, ruin the anime by any means, but it's something that I noticed.
The thing I want to say there is because I think it needs to be there once again as a balance, because you can have it like seriously depressing and make all the scenes look kind of darker and make the characters wear a lot of khaki and darker clothing, but it would just add to the dramaticism, and it would just make the anime really depressing, and I think they didn't want to go for that. It's clearly evident knowing what the anime is about. In regards to gripes and grumbles, because I really want to get into this because this is very important.
Yep.
I had a couple of issues with this anime. One of them was being pacing and having it needing to be like more episodes and whatnot. Another one is how they ended it, because you see throughout the anime, Tsukasa, he has different options.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the ending or like the post credits ending? Which one are you talking about? Sorry. I'm
talking about the ending, not the post credit ending. To be honest, the post credit ending was, it's been 9 months later, and he finds he goes back to his job and he gets a new Giftia to work with. That's it. I just found the ending to be a bit shitty. The reason that is because he was, throughout the anime, you see him having a number of options. You see him, okay, what would happen if Isla was to extend the time period? She would go crazy and try and harm people, similar to Matsuya. Or he can
Michiru's dad.
Yeah, or he can have her be terminated, or he can upgrade the OS. So one thing that for me that I didn't really like the ending, and I think this is a douchey move, and I think the reason that they've done this ending was mainly to prepare for the game, because games like this tend to have like visual novels, and visual novels tend to have a canon ending to them, as well as a various range of different endings. And I think the anime was set up to prepare for the visual novel, and I think that was not right.
Even if there is a game though, Bish, and there are multiple endings, like you said, there is only one canon ending, right? So that
but usually the canon ending is after the anime's ending. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Like, for example, I don't want to spoil Toradora, but there is a scene in the Toradora game which is considered the true canon ending, which happens 10 years after the ending within the anime.
Okay, and now that's some bullshit.
See, that's what I'm saying. This bullshit can continue potentially, and that's what they're gonna do. And I'm gonna have to play the game to find out.
Only time will tell, to be fair. We don't know yet.
But let's be honest, most visual novels tend to do this. And this is not a discussion on visual novels, but this is more so a discussion on how the anime was kind of tailored around making a visual novel. It might be the case, as Tyson mentioned in previous episodes of the podcast, that there was some sort of game development company within the production committee, and that's kind of why they've done this, maybe? But only time will tell, and we just don't know that information, so we can't assume.
Speaking of endings, though, I don't know how you guys feel about the post-credit scene, because to me, I mean, at first I was like, okay, but in retrospect, I think it's kind of like a dick move, and I hope that they address it in the novel, because they introduce you to, they quote-unquote introduce you to this new partner of, what's his face, of Hawkeye's, right?
Exactly.
But you don't see the face.
You
so,
get
like, what the fuck?
It.
You don't get closure.
That's what I'm saying. That's why, even in the trailer for the visual novel, in the text it says, "May I please meet the person most precious to me again someday." ... And I'm like, what the fuck? This is my issue with it. This is my issue, because we are only going to get true closure within this visual novel that most of us are not going to have the ability to play, because it's a Vita game, and secondly, there is no chance in hell that this game is going to be localized. We know this. So,
yeah,
or at least have some sort of English subtitles. So that's the issue here. We're never going to find out closure because there isn't a second season for us to. Do you see what I mean? This is why I'm saying a second season would at least be better, or at least an OVA. Let's be honest here. An OVA would be a better solution compared to this visual novel. And
no argument there. I definitely agree, especially with the way it ended. But other than this ending, which we spent a lot of time, bashing on, I think you guys will agree with me here if I say that personally, my main gripes is just the lacking character development for secondary characters, and even for the main character, for freaking, what is it? I forget his name. Honestly, I completely forget his name.
Michiru?
What? Tsukasa. Okay, I keep on thinking of like Mikasa, Tsukasa when I see his name, but Tsukasa, right? He's such a typical and boring protagonist, and the secondary characters don't help that, right? So it's just, for drama, right? Especially for romantic drama, where relationships are so important and you don't really get to feel for these relationships because the characters are so flat, it really hurts the anime, right? And although I guess it is another issue, with the length. If they had more time, they could have developed these characters more. But alas, we're reviewing the anime as it is, not as we wish it could be.
I really don't have any particular comment to make on the character development. And alas, I'm just gonna state my position once again that I felt that the show did what it had to do to tell a story. I'm really...
Okay.
Bish?
Mm-hmm. I've already given my gripes and grumbles, and I think we've already discussed would we like to see a second season. But I just want to summarize it. I think I did say before a second season would be better than the dick move that they did to kind of promote this kind of visual novel thing, and how the story is kind of effectively wrapping around this visual novel's true ending. But in hindsight, a second season wouldn't be a good thing, and we've already discussed that. I think an OVA would be better, at least for closure. And we might see one because the DVD is releasing soon in July and in September. So we actually might
Fingers
see
crossed.
some sort of OVA. Fingers crossed.
Now, yeah, same here. I mean, I'll never play the visual novel, and with the loose end that they left at the very end in the post-credit scene, I hope they do wrap that up in the OVA. But other than that, I think that I've said all there is to say about Gripes and Grumbles. You know what? With all this in mind, though, would you guys recommend this? And if so, who would you recommend it to?
I sure would. I sure would recommend this to someone. I think someone who is into a lot of dramatic anime, whether that is romantic or not. To be honest, I really did it. For me, the romance didn't really hit home. It was more like the dramatic and the emotional elements of the anime, especially when characters are dying or whatnot.
Oh, bitch, you're getting arrested.
I'm getting arrested because my opinions are too much for Annie Twitter.
The thought police is here.
The thought police.
But what I'm saying here is that I would recommend it to someone who's into dramatic anime and who just sometimes wanna cry a bit. I think because this anime does get you crying a lot, and I also think it's for people that really want to know. I wouldn't say know the meaning of life because it doesn't really do that, but I mean that they need to kind of focus on something. Like sometimes there's a lot going on in life and you need something as an anchor, and I think this anime could potentially provide that, as opposed to like you look back in life and you say, oh shit, there's more to life than just being sad. I have to live life while I have it. Do you know what I mean? I think the anime would work well for people who are seeking.
I mean,
that
that
kind
is
of
one of
thing.
the main themes, right? So I can definitely see where you're coming from.
By the way, there is something that I want to clarify at the beginning. The writer for this story, Naotaka Hayashi, he doesn't work for Dogakobo. He merely pitched it for Dogakobo, and they were the ones who accepted it. Also, Naotaka Hayashi was the one who wrote Steins Gate.
Okay. Very interesting.
With that out of the way, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all right. Tyson, what do you think? Would you give it to a friend to watch, or?
Yeah, sure. It's certainly not one that isn't familiar with anime, but I would recommend, at least from my perspective, to be patient, because this anime takes a lot to build its drama and its narrative, and probably to this person that I may recommend it to, the ideal person would be like-minded, like he or she would see the subtext into, hey, I personally felt this story talk about the about the meaning of relationships between humans. It uses androids to develop that narrative. So I would say yes, but it had to be someone who's already familiar with anime, and you have to be patient for it to get to the good stuff, because it does a lot of build up. But when the build up hits its climax, you are already on the field train, and you're no way in hell getting off of it until the end of the show.
As for me, like Jason said, I would perhaps recommend it to a certain group of people, not to anyone, right? I wouldn't recommend it to newcomers to anime because, mainly because of the pacing, honestly. Not even the tropes, it's mainly because of the pacing, right? Because it starts off really slow, and the best parts of the anime, in my opinion, are at the very end, right? So someone who's new to the anime and might be uncomfortable with the tropes and the jokes and all that might not stick around for all that time, right? So it'd be something I recommend to experienced anime viewers. In terms of drama, I mean, it is dramatic and it is emotional at times, but I personally find that it would not be the first dramatic anime that I would recommend, right? So if someone were to ask me, hey Kevin, what anime would you recommend that's dramatic, that's really good? This would not be my first choice. Although if it's someone who is interested in the genre, who wants to kill some time and just has a weekend that's free and they want to watch some anime, then go ahead. This is pretty solid anime. However, like I said, I'm a person who really likes anime with good character development. And unfortunately, there is character development for certain characters like Isla, but the secondary characters are very weak, right? So it's decent overall, in my opinion.
So yeah, Joe is not here, and he should have been doing the announcement for the next episode because we've effectively swapped Plastic Memories with Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches. So our next episode will be about Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches. So stick up for that. Whoa. I think Tyson, you can say what you want to say now, really.
Well, the thing that I want to say is that with this episode, Plastic Memories marks my final episode with Kunai. I won't be for Yamada-kun. I won't be a regular member of this podcast anymore. I have found another calling, basically, and I'm gonna pursue that calling. And Kunai is no longer in the picture for me, so I'll take my chances to say my goodbyes. And I don't know how I can make this more, but yeah, that's basically it. This is my final episode on Kunai, as a regular at least.
Mm-hmm. So effectively, guys, we knew about this earlier on, and this is the first time you guys knowing it, and we decided to keep it as this announcement towards the end of the episode, only because we didn't want it to affect the Plastic Memories. And I think it's kind of fitting in a way that the anime is about a loss of a loved one, and in a way we are losing Tyson, but he's always there, It's not like he's gonna be gone. We'll still talk to him on Twitter. It's not like we're gonna be like, oh fuck that guy Tyson, It's not gonna be like that. So we never know. He might return as a guest, but that might be like really slim chance.
This is not goodbye.
It's not goodbye, So
because someone has to shit on Yozora, right? I can't do it alone.
Exactly. So maybe for Haganai season 2. Maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows, exactly. And really, I think we wish you all the best, Tyson. And yeah, and I'm gonna give Tyson a shout out here. If you guys want more Tyson, if you're only listening to the podcast because of Tyson, you know what? You can go and check him out on his YouTube channel. He does some really lovely anime content in terms of like first impressions and things like that, and I think they're really cool. So go and check those out. And yeah, I'll put the links in the description so you guys can go and check out Tyson's channel and sub him and tell him Bish sent you here. Yeah. So I think that's it. I've been Bish Loves Mish. Tyson's been Tyson. Kevin has been I don't know. Kevin's been Kevin. And Joe, for some reason, he's not here. So, fuck you, Joe. No, I'm joking, Joe. I'm going to cut this so Joe doesn't listen to this. Maybe it might be in the bloopers.
Yeah, we should.
But really, we've been the cast of Get Life Podcast Kunai. You guys can go and check us out on Twitter at Get Life Podcast Kunai. So, not Get Life shit. Fuck. I can't even remember my own Twitter handle. So, at GALP Kunai. That's our Twitter page. You can send us suggestions. We have been getting a lot of suggestions recently. And the way that the suggestions are going to work, which I'm going to inform you guys now, is that basically we are going to take Tyson's slot and using that for your suggestions, which is kind of cool. Which is great, actually. We have enough suggestions to do that.
If anyone recommends Boku no Pico, I swear to God.
I
swear to God, just don't.
The thing is, if anyone suggests Boku no Pico, that would be hilarious, but we're not going to watch it because of Kunai regulations and rules. We can't be doing that kind of shit. So, but you can send it to Kevin. I think send Kevin an email. His email address... No, I'm not going to say his email address. But yeah, you can also contact us on our Twitter pages. My Twitter page is at Get a Life Podcast. Kevin's is at The Tempest Phoenix, all caps.
Phoenix is spelled F-E-N-I-X.
Oh, all right. You spell Phoenix the incorrect way. And Tyson, what's your Twitter page? One last time, Tyson.
It's Kanae, K-A-N-A-Y-E _.
So if you didn't hear that, that's at Kanye. So go send him. So go ahead and send him some
also, be sure to tune in to Tyson's channel for because he's dropping his next mixtape pretty soon. So stay tuned.
He's going to be doing that.
We're dropping some mad beats.
No, I hear it's a collaboration with Jay-Z, so it's going to be pretty lit. Yeah.
He's going places.
He is
Error.
gonna go places.
I have not understood joke. Can you please repeat that again, please?
So I think that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Get Life Podcast Kunai.
Woo!
All right, see you guys.
See ya.